So the year is 2015. I was a fresher. I had just landed my first ever job. And like most freshers in this country, my pay was very, very low. Meaning my needs started looking like luxuries to me. And one of the basic needs, of course, that I had was buying new clothes. And because of my low paying job, I didn't really have a lot of options to buy good new clothes often. And that is when I discovered a startup of that time called as Elanic, which had an app for selling and buying second-hand clothes. I was very confused because I'd never heard of this concept at that point. If I'm not wrong, it was probably the first ever in India at that point. And I was very amazed at something that was a new thing in our country, and I was very curious also because I didn't know that there was an option to sell my clothes, because I had a lot of clothes piled up from my college life which wasn't fitting me, but I didn't know that there was an option for me to make money through it, and also to buy ones which are at a percentage of the actual cost. And that is how I started being addicted to the word that we call today as thrifting. And fast forward to 2024, today that app has shut down, but today my passion to buy second-hand clothing items has sustained all this time. Hi, I'm Naina, and I have not bought a single first-hand clothing item in the last 1,820 days. I know it's going to be a little confusing to calculate that, but that is roughly 5 years. Yes, I have not bought a single new clothing item in 5 years. I know that will raise a lot of eyebrows, because how is that possible? Like, most of us buy new clothes every single month. So how was I able to not buy anything new for over 5 years now? So this is not as complicated as I would say. For me, this didn't start as some kind of a minimalistic mission or so. It didn't start as some statement that I had to make. It just became a part of my life very gradually, very unintentionally, but now it's become very, very intentional. So the last ever first-hand product I bought was in 2019 for my cousin sister's wedding, when I needed to buy a blouse material because she needed all her bridesmaids to have similar looking blouses. And since then, I have actually attended a lot of events, including festivals, weddings, red carpet and award functions also, and even the TEDx that I'm attending today, wearing a second-hand outfit and even a second-hand shoes. So this has been possible for me, and something along the way that became very surprising for me was the kind of support that I got. So just last month, my parents had gone to visit my sister in UK, and usually if they were coming back, they would have got me a first-hand dress as a gift from there. But instead, they surprised me by getting me a thrifted dress instead. And this is not something I had asked for at all. I actually told them that I didn't need anything, but they put the thought in it to get me a thrifted dress. And this didn't happen overnight. This was based on a lot of talks, conversations that we had in my family. And the thing is, they've not just bought me a thrifted cloth, but they've started practicing thrifting among themselves by buying for themselves too. And this wasn't just my family, by the way. My friends had also started recognizing me for being this thrifting queen, and they started realizing that anything that they had, which they had outgrown or something that was not of liking to them, they could send it to me because I would have no judgment. They didn't have to have a second thought at all to send it over to me, because I was very open to having that. And this, again, this dress itself is a hand-me-down from one of my friends. And now coming to the point of hand-me-down, India has always had a beautiful culture of hand-me-downs. From years and years, we've heard of how we will hand our clothes down to our cousins, and they will hand it down to the ones below them, and we've had that culture for so long. And I'm sure at least a few of you here in the audience today will have at least one sari from their grandmother that you're still using even today. Because our culture was very rich in second-hand or hand-me-downs, even from the day, but along the line, somewhere we broke that circle and we started looking for more convenient usage of clothes. And that is where we talk about fashion. I know all of us know what fashion is, but how many of you here in the audience knows the term fast fashion? If you have ever heard of this term, please raise your hands if you've heard the term fast fashion. Anyone who's heard the term fast fashion? Okay, that's very, very low number than I thought, which gives me a great opportunity to teach you what that actually is. So simply put, fast fashion is mass production of low quality clothing at a very incredibly fast pace. So these clothes are not meant to last. They're made to last for 1 or 2 wears, and after that it's meant to be thrown away. And I think we've all fallen into that trap also. Most of us now shop at these fast fashion brands, we buy it, we use it for 1 or 2 times, and then we get bored of it, or maybe it starts tearing up and then we throw it into the back of our cupboard. You will not believe that today fast fashion and the fashion industry is responsible for 8 to 10% of global carbon emissions, and that is more than all the international flights and maritime shipping included. It is as massive as that. But we hardly ever hear anybody talking about an industry that is responsible for so much of emission. And we've just started including them in our daily lives without any thought. So many of you have gone to a lot of these fashion brands, fast fashion brands on a daily basis, but we never think of where it's coming from, because we see that these clothes are quite cheap. But what is the cost of this cheap clothing? We never think of the exploitation of workers that's happening behind the scenes. Because for us, at the end of the day, one clothing item will be maybe jeans you can buy even for 200 rupees today, not for 1,000, 2,000. You can even get a pair of jeans for 200 rupees. So why not just buy one, throw it, when you're bored of it, buy a new one, and then throw it again. That's the culture that we have grown into in the last few decades. But we need to break that now. Because if you didn't know, the amount of water that is needed for just one piece of cotton shirt, a simple cotton shirt requires 2,700 liters of water to produce. And that amount of water can sustain one person for over 2 years. That is the amount of water that is needed for the production of a clothing material, which generally will get, like I said, used once or twice and then thrown away. This is the impact that fashion has had on our world. And this is where we need to start questioning. Again, when my journey of sustainable fashion or second-hand fashion started in 2015, I didn't start it because of, say, environmental reasons or anything. For me, that was just for saving money. Because I did save a lot of money doing this. But over the years, when I started learning more and more about the fashion industry, the kind of facts, the kind of statistics that I saw was not something that I could ignore at all. And that is when I realized this has to be something that I don't just do once in a year or so. It is something that has to be practiced constantly. And I'm sure even now, after knowing all these facts, there are some of you who will still be questioning what is the need for us. So let me give you a couple of hard truths. One garbage full of clothes gets dumped into a landfill every second of the day. And I mean every second. Meaning by the end of this talk of mine, you will probably be having around 800 to 900 garbage trucks worth of clothes going into the landfill. And trust me, those clothes are mostly made of fabrics that are not even sustainable. These are made of synthetic fabrics, mostly the popular one being polyester, which, if you didn't know, polyester is made of petroleum. And these clothes, polyester or nylon or these clothes, will stay in that landfill for 200 to 500 years. Meaning, a polyester dress that you buy today could probably outlive 4 to 5 of your generations in this world. And that is the kind of rotting of clothes that we will hear about. And if you want to know about this a little more, you can just Google about the clothes desert in Ghana or Chile, where you will see so many photos of clothes just lying around in a desert. That is the amount of clothes that we are buying. If you didn't know, one more quick thing I'll tell you is that the fashion industry produces over 80 billion clothes every single year. 80 billion. Just think of the number. It's not even something we can comprehend. That is the amount of clothes that are produced every single year. And how do we as a person break this cycle? How can we change this? So there are a lot of options for us to do. So starting up, you can just start by looking into your own wardrobe. Look at your own wardrobe, because like I said, there are lots of clothes that we hardly ever use in our wardrobes. Start looking through and start trying to restyle the ones that you already have. If not, start borrowing from your friends or family from stuff that they may already have. If you're going for an event, you can even rent clothes. There are lots of renting options today. So instead of paying, say, 20,000 for a very expensive lehenga, you could probably get the same lehenga for 5,000 rupees, which you can then give back, and you don't have it lying around gathering dust in your wardrobe either. And another thing that we've forgotten completely is the method of repairing. I know all of us here in this auditorium has at least 2 or 3 clothing items which probably had a hole, maybe a jeans with a broken zip that we thought we will get to repairing it someday, but that someday never came. So that is a practice we can again take back, because that's very important to make sure that we are not exploiting the clothing industry that we have today. Another thing that we can do is, again, second-hand buying. Buying second-hand or thrifted clothes is a great possibility. I know most of you are not even familiar with that option, and it's not just a thing that you see in certain metro cities alone. Today, you can just search for thrift or second-hand in Google or on Instagram. You will find so many thrifting pages which ship everything throughout the country. So now there is no excuse for not buying second-hand anymore. So what I will tell you is that right now we have the future of fashion is right now in our hands. It's not about a lot more. It's not about buying a lot more. It's about trying and reducing and using whatever you have in your space. Let us try and take a fact, at least a fact where we can try and be a little more conscious about the kind of clothes that we buy every day. And one more thing I can tell you is, whenever you are looking for buying a new cloth, I'll ask you to do just a basic thing. Whether it's an online or an offline purchase, before you buy it, just put it into your shopping cart and pause for a moment. Take like a day or two before you buy it. Because by the end of that 2 days or 3 days, you will realize that that purchase would have been an impulse buy, not something that you needed. But in case it was something that you felt you really needed, ask yourselves these few questions. Is this a clothing item that you really need? Or is it something you're just buying because you thought it was trendy or you saw your friends wearing it? Is it something that you could replace with something that you already have in your wardrobe? Is it something you could probably borrow from your friends or family, something that is easy to borrow? Or if you are buying it, will you wear it for at least 30 times minimum? Because by extending the life of your clothing item by at least 9 months, you will be reducing its environmental impact by almost 30% or more. That is the amount of impact that you can have in your daily life through your clothing practices. So the future of fashion is not about more. The future is about making the most of what you already have. So let's sort of take a fact that we can try and rewrite the story of fashion one choice one outfit, one day at a time. Thank you.